Stop drinking water the way you've been doing it your entire life. Because if you're over 60 and waking up 2, 3, even 4 times every night just to rush to the bathroom, the issue is almost never how much water you drink. The real problem is when you drink it, how you drink it, and what your body is dealing with alongside it. And here's the surprising part. Almost no one has ever properly explained this to you. Not your doctor, not the label on the bottle, not even the general health advice you've followed for years. Until now. I'm Dr. William Lee, and after years working in urology and vascular medicine, I've watched the same quiet pattern repeat itself thousands of times. Active, intelligent adults slowly losing their sleep, night after night, over something that is actually fixable, completely fixable. And the most important part is this: you don't need medication, you don't need surgery, and you don't need complicated treatments. What you need is a clear understanding of how your body handles water differently as you age. Because after 60, your system no longer processes hydration the way it did in your 30s. There are at least 6 key changes that begin to shape how your body responds to fluids. And once you understand them, everything about your nights can start to improve. What really forced me to pay closer attention to this wasn't just clinical experience, it was data. A major study from Leiden University Medical Center followed over 18,800 adults aged 60 and above. What they found was striking. Around 72% of them experienced what doctors call nocturia, meaning they woke up at least twice every night to urinate. But the real concern wasn't just inconvenience. These individuals had a 47% higher risk of falls, a 38% increase in depressive symptoms, and they were losing an average of 1.5 hours of deep sleep every single night. That's not just a minor issue. That's a slow, steady decline in energy, health, and quality of life happening quietly over time. Before we go further, I want to ask you something directly. How old are you right now? And how many times are you waking up each night? Take a moment and think about it. You can even leave your answer in the comments. I read them, and it genuinely helps shape what I create next for you. Now, we're going to walk through 6 key hydration principles. We'll start from number 6 and move all the way down to number 1. And by the end, you'll realize something most people never consider, that the way you drink water has a far greater impact on your sleep than you've ever imagined. In fact, one of the habits we'll discuss later is something almost every healthy senior does every morning, believing it helps their body, when in reality, it may be one of the main reasons they keep waking up at night. So let's begin. Number 6 is what I call front-loading failure. It's one of the most common hidden causes of poor sleep, and most people don't even realize they're doing it. The pattern is simple. You wake up in the morning and barely drink enough water. Throughout the day, you remain slightly dehydrated without noticing. Then in the evening, usually with dinner or shortly after, you suddenly try to catch up by drinking a large amount of fluids. I've seen this pattern again and again, and it almost always leads to disrupted sleep. The reason becomes clear when you understand how the aging kidneys function. After around age 65, kidney filtration efficiency drops by roughly 30 to 40%. This process, known as glomerular decline, means your kidneys no longer process fluids as quickly or as smoothly as they once did. Think of it like a system that used to run at full capacity but is now operating at half speed. So when you suddenly load that system with a large amount of water in the evening, it can't keep up in real time. Instead, it holds onto that fluid. Then later in the night, often around 11 p.m., midnight, or even 1 a.m., your body finally catches up, and that's when the signal hits your bladder. That's when you wake up. That's when you wake up. Not because something is wrong, but because your body is simply delayed in processing what you gave it hours earlier. And once you see it this way, the solution becomes much clearer. The correction is simple, but it requires consistency. You need to shift your hydration earlier in the day. Around 60 to 70% of your total daily fluid intake should happen before 2 p.m. This one change alone can dramatically reduce how often you wake up at night This isn't just theory, it's been studied. Research from the University of Copenhagen found that seniors who adopted this pattern reduced their nighttime bathroom visits by about 43% in just 3 weeks. That's a meaningful difference in sleep quality without any medication at all. I've seen this play out in real life as well. One of my patients, a 1-year-old retired teacher named Margaret, came to me after struggling with 4 nightly awakenings for nearly 2 years. She was exhausted, anxious, and had even started to dread going to bed. We didn't change her medications. We didn't add supplements. We adjusted one thing. We moved most of her water intake to earlier in the day. Within 3 weeks, her nighttime trips dropped from 4 to 1. After 6 weeks, some nights she didn't wake up at all. She told me she finally felt like herself again after years of broken sleep. That's the power of timing. As part of this adjustment, you can also include herbal teas earlier in the day if you prefer something other than plain water. Certain plant compounds can gently support hydration balance and may even help your kidneys process fluids more steadily. The key is not just what you drink, but when you drink it. Now, let's move to number 5, because this is where things begin to challenge what many people believe is healthy. Number 5 involves a habit that has been recommended for years, drinking a full glass of water right before going to bed. You've probably heard this advice before. Drink water before sleep to protect your heart, prevent dehydration, or reduce the risk of blood pressure spikes during the night. And while there are certain medical situations where hydration timing matters, for most adults over 65, drinking a full glass of water in the last hour or two before bed leads to a very predictable outcome. You wake up in the middle of the night. This isn't guesswork. It's basic physiology, and it changes with age. When you lie down, your body begins to redistribute fluids. During the day, gravity pulls fluid downward, which is why many older adults notice mild swelling in their legs or feet by the evening. But once you lie flat, that fluid starts moving back up into your circulatory system. As we age, blood vessels lose some of their elasticity, which makes this shift more noticeable. Fluid tends to accumulate more during the day and then return more rapidly once you're lying down. Researchers at Johns Hopkins studied this and found that in adults over 70, simply lying down can shift up to 300 milliliters of fluid back toward the kidneys within the first 90 minutes of sleep. That alone is already a significant internal load. Now, imagine adding a full glass of water on top of that just before bed. You're stacking extra fluid at the exact moment your body is trying to slow down its processes for rest. The result is almost inevitable. Around 1 a.m. or 2 a.m., your kidneys finish processing that combined volume, and your bladder sends a signal, you wake up. But the solution is not to completely stop drinking water in the evening. That would create a different issue, mild dehydration, which can affect circulation and blood pressure. The real answer is moderation and timing. Instead of a full glass, switch to very small amounts if needed, just a few sips. If you feel thirsty after 7 p.m., respond to it, but don't overdo it. A small 3 to 4 ounce portion is usually enough to ease thirst without overwhelming your system. A small 3 to 4 ounce portion is usually enough to ease thirst without overwhelming your system. And one simple adjustment that makes this much easier is changing the container you use. If you keep a large bottle beside your bed, you're far more likely to drink more than you need without thinking. But if you replace it with a small cup, your intake naturally stays controlled without effort. It's a subtle change, but it often reduces nighttime waking more effectively than relying on willpower alone. There's also another point many people overlook. Your body is already managing a natural internal shift of fluids while you sleep. So when you add extra volume right before lying down, you're not just hydrating, you're disrupting a balance that is already in motion. Now, before we move forward, it's important to understand something deeper. Hydration is not just about how much water you drink. It's also about what that water contains. And this brings us directly to number 4, which is something most people have never connected to bladder control or sleep quality. Number 4 is what I call the mineral gap. This is one of the most overlooked factors in aging, yet it plays a surprisingly powerful role in nighttime urination. One of the key minerals involved here is magnesium. As we get older, magnesium levels tend to decline. This happens for several reasons, including changes in diet and reduced absorption in the digestive system. In fact, research from the National Institutes of Health suggests that up to 60 to 70% of older adults may not be getting enough magnesium. Why does this matter? Because magnesium plays a direct role in regulating muscle function, including the muscle that controls your bladder, the detrusor muscle. When magnesium levels are low, this muscle can become more reactive. It may contract even when your bladder isn't actually full. In simple terms, your body starts sending urgency signals before they are truly needed. You feel like you have to go, even when there isn't much there. A clinical trial from the University of Bristol demonstrated just how significant this can be. In women over 60 who were given magnesium supplementation, nighttime urination episodes dropped by more than 50% within a few weeks. That's a major improvement from a single adjustment. Now, here's where hydration connects directly to this issue. Many modern water sources, especially filtered or heavily processed water, contain very low levels of natural minerals. So even if you're drinking enough in terms of volume, you may not be replacing what your body actually needs to support proper muscle and nerve function. Over time, this creates a quiet imbalance. You're hydrated, but not nourished at the cellular level. A practical way to address this is to include mineral-rich water earlier in the day. Some natural mineral waters contain useful levels of magnesium and other electrolytes that support fluid balance. Another option is adding a small amount of mineral salt or using a doctor-approved magnesium supplement in the morning, ideally with food to improve absorption. The goal here is not to complicate things. It's simply to recognize that hydration is not just water going in, it's also what that water carries into your system. When that balance improves, many people notice that their bladder becomes less reactive, especially during the night. Now, this leads us to another hidden factor, one that has nothing to do with how much you drink, but instead focuses on what you're actually drinking in the evening hours. Because some of the drinks people believe are healthy may be quietly working against their sleep without them realizing it. Let's move into number 3. Number 3 is where things become even more surprising because it involves beverages that many people choose specifically for their health benefits. And yet, in the evening, some of these same drinks can irritate the bladder and increase nighttime urgency without any obvious warning signs. Over the years, I've seen a consistent pattern in patients who struggle with waking up multiple times at night. They're not careless about hydration. In fact, they're often very disciplined. They drink herbal teas in the evening. They choose coconut water for electrolytes. They switch to sparkling water instead of soda. And they even infuse their water with fruit because plain water feels too dull. On the surface, these all seem like smart, healthy choices. But the aging bladder responds very differently to certain compounds, especially after the age of 70. But the aging bladder responds very differently to certain compounds, especially after the age of 70. Over time, the bladder lining becomes thinner and more sensitive. Its protective layer, which normally shields it from irritation, gradually weakens. And when that protection declines, even mild substances can begin to trigger urgency signals much sooner than they used to. One of the most common culprits is citric acid. It's found in citrus fruits and anything infused with lemon, orange, or similar ingredients. For younger adults, this rarely causes any noticeable effect, but in older adults, it can increase bladder sensitivity and create the feeling that you need to urinate earlier than necessary. Carbonated drinks are another hidden factor. The gas in sparkling water slightly increases pressure inside the bladder. It may seem insignificant, but in a more sensitive system, even a small increase like that can be enough to trigger a signal during the night. Then there are certain herbal teas. While many are marketed as calming or beneficial, some contain ingredients like hibiscus or high levels of vitamin C, which can act as mild irritants. Again, these are not harmful in general, but timing changes everything. I remember a patient who illustrates this perfectly. Robert, a 4-year-old retired engineer, was extremely disciplined about his health. Every evening, he followed what he believed was an ideal routine: green tea with lemon and a small amount of apple cider vinegar. He had read that it supported digestion and metabolism, so he stuck with it consistently. Despite all of this, he was waking up 3 times every night. He assumed it was just aging or perhaps a developing bladder condition, but when we looked more closely, the issue wasn't disease, it was irritation. We made one simple change. For 2 weeks, we removed all evening beverages except plain warm water. No citrus, no carbonation, no complex herbal blends. The result was immediate. His nighttime trips dropped from 3 to 1 almost overnight. This doesn't mean those drinks are bad. It simply means that your body processes them differently depending on the time of day. What supports your health in the afternoon can quietly disrupt your sleep at night. A simple guideline that works for many people is this: after around 5 p.m., keep your drinks as neutral as possible. Plain water is the safest option. If you prefer something warm, chamomile tea is one of the few herbal choices that has been shown to calm bladder activity rather than stimulate it. The idea here is not restriction, it's simplification. The fewer reactive compounds your bladder has to deal with in the evening, the more stable your sleep becomes. Now, once you understand what to avoid at night, the next question becomes even more important. What should you be doing in the morning to prevent this cycle from starting in the first place? This is where number 2 becomes critical, because it explains how a very common morning habit is quietly setting up the entire pattern of nighttime waking without most people ever realizing it. Let's move into number 2. This is something almost no one questions because it appears completely healthy on the surface. It starts the moment you wake up. Most people over 60 have heard the same advice for years. Drink a large glass of water first thing in the morning. It sounds logical. After all, you've gone 7 or 8 hours without fluids. Your body should be dehydrated, so you respond by drinking quickly, often a full glass, sometimes even more, all at once. But what's rarely explained is how your body reacts to that sudden volume, especially as you age. When you drink a large amount of water very quickly, your system experiences a rapid internal shift. Your blood becomes diluted, and your kidneys respond immediately by flushing out the excess fluid. This leads to a strong urge to urinate shortly after waking. At first, this seems harmless, but the real impact is what happens next. That sudden, rapid fluid change sends a signal through your hormonal system, especially affecting antidiuretic hormone regulation, also known as ADH. This hormone plays a central role in controlling how much water your kidneys conserve throughout the day. When its rhythm is disturbed early in the morning, it can influence how your body handles fluid balance for the rest of the day. In simpler terms, the way you drink water in the morning can quietly shape how often you wake up at night. Research from the University of Tokyo's Department of Nephrology has shown that older adults who drink water slowly and in smaller amounts tend to maintain better hormonal stability throughout the day. As a result, they experience fewer unnecessary urine cycles in the evening compared to those who consume large amounts quickly in the morning. This doesn't mean you should stop drinking water when you wake up. It means the pattern matters more than the volume. Instead of one large glass, a better approach is slow sipping over 20 to 30 minutes. Keep a small cup nearby and take gradual sips as you begin your morning routine. You can eat breakfast, move around, or simply start your day calmly while hydrating at a steady pace. Then, about half an hour later, another small amount helps maintain balance without overwhelming the system. This creates a smoother absorption pattern, allowing your body to adjust naturally instead of reacting in sudden shifts. Temperature also plays an important role. Warm or room temperature water is generally easier on the system, especially for older adults. Cold water can create a mild stress response in the digestive tract, which may indirectly influence how fluid is processed. When you combine slow sipping with slightly warm water, you're essentially helping your body establish a stable hydration rhythm from the very start of the day. And that rhythm matters more than most people realize. Now we reach the final and most important principle. This is where everything connects: timing, hormones, kidney function, and daily hydration structure all come together into one simple but powerful strategy. It's the point where small adjustments begin to produce the biggest results. Number one is what I call the 2-hour hydration cutoff, combined with strategic afternoon loading. Your body follows a natural internal rhythm controlled by a hormone called arginine vasopressin, also known as antidiuretic hormone. In younger adults, this hormone increases at night, signaling the kidneys to slow down urine production so sleep remains uninterrupted. But after the age of 60, this rhythm weakens. Research from the University of Amsterdam shows that nighttime suppression of urine production can drop by more than 30% in older adults. That means your kidneys continue producing nearly the same amount of urine at night as they do during the day. This condition is known as nocturnal polyuria, and it is one of the main reasons older adults wake up repeatedly at night. Importantly, this is not primarily a bladder problem. It is a timing and hormonal regulation issue. The most effective way to influence this pattern is through hydration timing. The rule is simple. Establish a firm cutoff for fluid intake about 2 hours before bedtime. If you go to bed at 10 p.m., your last meaningful drink should be around 8 p.m. After that, only small sips if absolutely necessary. But here's what most people miss. This strategy only works if you shift hydration earlier in the day. Between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m., your body is at its most efficient state for processing fluids. Kidney function is active, circulation is strong, and the system is naturally more stable. This makes the afternoon the ideal window to consume a larger portion of your daily hydration. A clinical study published in the journal Urology and Neurodynamics found that older adults who consumed around 40% of their daily fluids in the afternoon, combined with a strict evening cutoff, reduced nighttime urination episodes by more than 60% within 1 month. That is a significant improvement achieved purely through timing.